If this is you, you've replayed that argument 100 times in your head. Not because you're still angry, but because you still can't understand how she walked away like it meant nothing. How she said things that cut deep, then acted like nothing happened. No, I'm sorry, no accountability, just silence. As if you were the only one who felt anything at all. Maybe this feels familiar. You tried to talk it through, hoping she'd finally admit she went too far. But instead, she flipped it, turned it around, made you question your own reality. And somewhere in that moment, you stopped trying to be understood and started wondering if you even mattered. You start thinking, why is it that when you make a mistake, you own it, but when she does, there's always a reason, an excuse, or worse, denial wrapped in charm. You feel unseen, blamed, almost invisible under the weight of her pride, and yet part of you still wants to believe she cares, that deep down she knows she hurt you, but something in her just won't let her admit it. So you're left sitting there, staring at your phone, waiting for words that never come. The apology that would make everything make sense again. But what if the truth isn't about you at all? What if there's something deeper, something wired into how she processes guilt, emotion, and power that makes saying I'm sorry feel impossible? Most men take it personally when a woman doesn't apologize. They think it means she doesn't care, that she's cold, unfeeling, or heartless. But that's where most guys get it wrong. See, women don't respond to guilt and accountability the same way men do. They respond to emotion, to how safe they feel in your presence. When she refuses to say I'm sorry, it's often not about the mistake. It's about control, power, or emotional protection. She's preserving her sense of safety, even if it comes at the cost of truth. The problem is, most men try to solve it emotionally, explaining, pleading, trying to make her see. But that's the trap. Every time you chase an apology, you hand away your authority. You're telling her that her validation defines your peace. A core masculine principle is this. You don't need her to admit she was wrong to know you were right. Your calm acceptance of reality, without resentment, without needing her words, is the apology you give yourself. When you stop demanding her acknowledgement, you reclaim your power. And that quiet strength, that calm, unshakable energy, says more than any argument ever could. He sits in his car long after she's gone. The argument ended an hour ago, but her last words still echo. Sharp, dismissive, final. Rain taps against the windshield, steady and indifferent, like the silence she left behind. He scrolls through their last messages, half expecting an apology that will never come. Nothing. Just read receipts and a heavy kind of quiet that fills his chest. He replays it again. The moment he raised his voice, the way her eyes hardened, how she twisted his words until he began doubting himself. Maybe I did overreact, he whispers under his breath. Though some part of him knows he didn't. He was just tired of being the only one who cared enough to say sorry. He can still smell her perfume on his jacket, that soft, haunting reminder that she was here, that she once looked at him like he was home. Now she's gone, and somehow he's the one left carrying the blame she never claimed. He stares out the window, watching headlights blur through raindrops, and something clicks inside him, quiet but certain. Maybe she never apologized because she couldn't bear to feel small. Maybe her silence was her way of staying in control, and maybe, just maybe, his peace was never supposed to come from her words anyway. So he exhales, the kind that sounds like letting go. He starts the car, not to chase her, but to drive back to himself. Most men think if a woman doesn't apologize, it means she doesn't care, but that's not always true. Sometimes her silence isn't cruelty, it's self-preservation. Women are emotional communicators, not logical ones. When she feels cornered, she protects her ego, not because she wants to hurt you, but because shame feels like death to her. She'll rewrite the story just to avoid feeling like the villain. The second lie men believe is that if they can make her see her mistake, things will finally go back to normal. But the more you try to prove your point, the more she resists it. Not because you were wrong, but because she's not ready to face the truth without losing power. You can't teach accountability to someone who feels unsafe being wrong. What most men miss is this. You don't need her to apologize to heal. The moment you stop demanding emotional justice, you rise above emotional chaos. That's when she feels your strength, not your anger. Her apology isn't your closure. Your peace is. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself. The 3% man doesn't chase apologies. He doesn't need them. He understands that his value isn't proven by how someone treats him in a moment of emotion, but by how calmly he stays rooted in who he is. This is what he understands. A woman's reaction doesn't define his worth. His response does. While most men spiral, trying to make her admit she was wrong, he stays still. Not cold, not distant, just centered. He knows that emotional stability is what creates gravity, and gravity is what draws respect. He doesn't fight for peace. He becomes it. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He listens, he observes, and when chaos rises, he grounds it. Not by control, but by composure. His silence carries more weight than her defensiveness. His calm becomes the mirror that reveals her truth. The 3% man isn't waiting for her to own her mistake. He already owns his peace. That's the quiet power that makes her realize what she lost, without him ever having to say a word. It hits him on a quiet night. No arguments, no messages, no noise. Just the hum of his thoughts and the weight of everything unsaid. For weeks, he's been waiting for something, a message, an apology, a sign that she finally sees what she did. But all that waiting has felt like standing outside a locked door, hoping someone on the other side cares enough to open it. Then, somewhere between the silence and the stillness, a truth begins to rise. Maybe it was never about her saying, "I'm sorry." Maybe it was about him realizing he doesn't need those words to close the wound, because an apology doesn't give him his worth back. Remembering who he is does. He thinks back to the man he was before the overthinking, before he started trying to earn love through understanding. The man who moved with calm certainty, who didn't need permission to feel whole. And suddenly the air feels lighter. He's not angry anymore, just awake. He stops checking his phone, stops rehearsing the speech he'd never get to give, and for the first time, he smiles, not because she came back, but because he finally did. You don't need her to say she was wrong for you to know you were always enough.